Yann, a quick word on, you've heard LeCun's views now since January and maybe earlier than that. For us to land open source, I mean, I keep saying that the love for Llama is amazing. How do we make sure that this continues with a regulatory guardrail kind of a thing that LeCun is referring to?
Well, so there's 2 or 3 obstacles to open source really taking off. The first thing is adoption. So if people don't like it, there's no point. But people like it, so right?
Yeah.
Do we like it? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
And we see growing adoption. So maybe the question of whether it made sense for a lot of people, it always made sense for Meta to open source platforms. It's in the DNA of the company. Since before I joined. But it was a question as to whether the risk associated with open sourcing a platform like Llama was worth the benefits. And so we did this progressively, right? The first version of Llama was not really open source. You had to apply to kind of get it, and you had to be researchers and things like this, right? And there were a lot of restrictions in the license. And then we got so many incoming requests. I got a lot. The CTO, Bosworth at Meta, got a lot of incoming requests of people saying, like, you have to open source this. Mark Zuckerberg got a lot of requests as well. And we all basically figured out that this was like the new internet. This was internet 1994, where the thing was completely taking off, and it was sort of creating a new ecosystem. And so at some point, Mark Zuckerberg said, like, okay, there are risks, but we're just going to push the button on open source because the benefits are so enormous. And the response has been incredible with Llama 2, even more with Llama 3 because it's got a slightly more liberal license. And so we know that we are on a good path. But there are 3 obstacles. The first one is regulatory. So there are people in various governments around the world who think AI is intrinsically dangerous and needs to be regulated at the research and development level. And that would basically kill open source, because then for a company like Meta, the risk of open sourcing would be too high. And so those rules, and there are people who are genuinely worried that LLMs can be used by badly intentioned people for doing really bad things. I don't think that's really
I think Mark made a good point. He said, bad actors will steal that anyway. So might as well make it open source and let the good guys use it. So I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, that's a big argument also. The fact that there are platforms that are open source allows the good guy to make progress faster than the bad guys, if you think in terms of, in those terms. So there is this force. Then there is a question as to whether the open source model, which we know will be incredibly successful in the context of operating systems and mobile communication and stuff like that, whether it applies to AI in the sense that open source platforms do end up being better, more secure, more efficient, more portable, etc. in the context of AI. It wasn't clear a year ago. It's becoming pretty clear now, right? But in the future, what we need is the open source platforms to be the best. Like that there would be no hesitation. Right now, you set up, I don't know, a server farm, okay? You're not even considering Windows NT to run your server, right? You just run Linux. It wasn't the case 15 years ago. You had the choice between Sun Microsystems or Windows or HP UX or whatever 20 years ago. And now you don't even ask the question, it's open source. A similar phenomenon happened in mobile communication. The software stack that runs on the cell phone towers is all open source. Now, the philosophy of Meta that we've adopted for PyTorch, for example, is we build something, we open source it, we make the license more and more liberal, we get people to contribute, and then we actually transfer the ownership. So PyTorch does not belong to Meta anymore, it belongs to the Linux Foundation. Meta, of course, is a major player, but a similar thing happened when IBM got involved in Linux as well. They're a major player in it, but they don't own it. I mean, they own Red Hat, but they don't own the Linux kernel. So I think this kind of model is really the one that is going to, that needs to win for AI, because it needs to be a common infrastructure, and it needs to be portable and flexible. And there's a danger that it will not happen, that somehow the mayonnaise will not gel or something. But we're seeing very positive signals. There are a lot